You're such an asshole.
Off we go into the wild blue, Cappy. Off we go. And we'll hike some more. All right, dear Cappy, I was watching an episode of Chris Williams' podcast. Come on, phone. And he brought up the male sedation hypothesis. Is that really like did just someone stop calling? Not you, not you. But I don't know. Maybe it was back in my day where everything became a theory or a hypothesis. I had an idea. Well, it's the male, a shit ton of fucking words before it, hypothesis at the end. The quenching of one's thirst hypothesis. You mean you're thirsty? We have a hypothesis. The male sedation hypothesis. In times past, when societies were dealing with a heavily lopsided sexual marketplace, the men who weren't getting any would oftentimes act violently, or they'd be conscripted into war. I think 2 Chinese dynasties were ended because of it. The people who believe in this hypothesis even go so far as to say that it was the reason behind the Viking raids. They also believe that Pron in video games was created so that frustrated men wouldn't act out violently in huge numbers. No, okay. No, that's conspiracy theory. That's ridiculous conspiracy theory. Video games were created because they could be created and they were fun. It was a quirky little thing. Oh, look where computing technology is going. Hey, we can make a game out of this, and they did. Pron's been around forever. I bring this up because people like Justin Waller want the government to ban pornography. Does he? I mean, I'm friends, kind of colleagues with Justin Waller. Did he? I would disagree with him on that, but I know Justin. I doubt this will happen anytime soon unless there's some kind of religious revival or women continue complaining until they get their way. The people who want to ban prawn think this would force men to get off their ass and become productive. Oh, really? Really? Then you add to that most modern games are shit. Well, that's true. What do you believe would happen if prawn was made illegal? Do you think men would become violent? Would like a video response. Okay, so I had to kind of mull this over. Let's plug that in so I don't lose battery power. Basically, the thesis is that men have a certain amount of energy. They got to run off this. They got a certain amount of steam. They got to run off this steam. And in times past, we'd attach female commitment and sex to that, and children. And you'd have the house and the family, progeny. And we, as society, quite literally, as society, we took this steam, this energy caused by testosterone. We put a electric turbine in it, like you do on a waterfall. All that energy flowed over the turbine, generate electricity. Poof, we have society. And now that marriage and dating and girls and all that is largely, not completely, but largely off the table for men, especially young men. Like if you assume the generations more or less date, I know women date older, but it's not like a full generation's older. But when your generation of women really aren't going to, until they're ready to settle down. Now we're now time to get serious. I'm done having my fun. Now you get this boring ass frumpy me entering my spinster era. Now I'll let you. Especially the younger guys. Yeah, I mean, there's a reason younger men are the ones that commit most of the crime. But especially now when it postponed. Yeah, there's a pent up energy. Now, I do not believe prawn and video games were made to be a release valve to it, but there has to be it ended up becoming one anyway. And there has to be a release valve to this built up, pent up steam. Because I view it more as a law of physics. There is a certain amount of pressure it needs to be relieved. If you were to shut off prawn in video games, there's going to be pressure building up. It's got to be released somewhere. Now, your theory is that men will get off, or maybe not yours, but other people are like, men would finally get off their ass and start working. And I don't believe that's a pressure valve. That is, I don't believe that's a avenue or venue by which men or the majority of men can let off steam. Some men may choose to do that. Okay, I'm going to work. Well, there's no Pron. I got all this built up energy. What am I going to do with it? But men are going to make an economic decision, conscious or not. And right now, I'd say the U.S. labor market, that valve is welded shut or doesn't even exist for the vast majority of people or men, because the uh, efforts to go into look, I'm critical of younger generations being lazy and not responsible and tardy and not being able to add, or just doing half-ass job. There's some legitimate constructive criticism that could be played there, but again, I completely understand, having gone through it myself, the absurd requirements in this country that are required to work and get a job, let alone a job that pays a living wage. It is absurd. It's the no forget Democrats and Republicans, forget boomers versus millennials, although it kind of is that. Uh, we make it so fucking difficult with absurd education requirements to get a job. And then when you do get a job, the mentally ill, psychopathic environment that workplaces have become are not tenable. It's kind of a fascinating thing, in spite of being conditioned and hoodwinked like the millennials were to go to college, put all this fucking effort, nearly your entire youth, into becoming a career and having complete control of the narrative and the environment, whether that's corporations and schools. That the last generation for that to work on was the millennials, by and large. Sometimes things get so impossible that, without really thinking about it, it's just physically impossible. It comes down to the individual daily choices where someone says, "I can't do that." But I'll give you it's gotten so bad that despite controlling all the entire path, the Zoomers said, "Fuck you, we're not doing it." Not that Zoomers sat down and calculated with a spreadsheet, "Hey, did you see how much time, effort, and money this is gonna" I did a cost benefit. I have a hypothesis. You made college too expensive. You exhaust. Here's another hard, like, okay, tuition becoming prohibitively expensive. But I would say another one is K through 12, that physically exhausts, mentally taxes, and eliminates any energy and capacity or desire that young people today going through that have no. They got nothing left in the tank by the time you're done beating the shit out of them. And especially with the anti-male, girl boss, we don't need no that men, boys here from 5 to 18 and K through 12, they're done. They're tapping out. You throw in on top of that a welfare state. Oh, well, do you have a touch of the tism? Well, here's disability. I know it's more complicated than that, but you can live at home. There's a bunch of state, federal, local aid. Hell, some people would rather just go live in a tent and be homeless to do van life. Uh, at the end of the day, it is so bad. It is, in most cases, it's a broad use of the word because it's not all cases. In most cases, it is impossible in the United States to go get a job without sacrificing your life and your mental health and physical health and your youth. That is no longer an avenue. Right now, as it stands, the education requirements, the unacceptable psychological environment of employers, state, federal, doesn't matter, private sector, public sector. The tax rates, that is not a release valve that is open to most men. It's just not. So the idea that if we just get rid of that nasty prawn in video games, then men will work harder because they'll have to. And what a fucking joyful event that will be. No, Man, you see it. More and more people are choosing homelessness, tent living, van life, living at home. Then you throw on the welfare state because, well, Democrats are dumb. Let's make it impossible for everyone to work, and then we'll pay them not to work. Then we'll wonder why is so many. I don't get it. I don't think you could get rid of it. You might get some minor fraction of men. Well, I got nothing better to do. Now it's time to get my master's in engineering. Nope. They'll do some. And here's the thing: you mentioned two vices. They're just going to find more vices. You didn't mention drugs or alcohol, which they're also pursuing now. Women too. They're not, since work is not a valve that could ever be open, let alone a large one by which people can easily pass through. They won't be able to physically go that way, so they'll go somewhere else. So I'd say, let me take a look because you mentioned Pron in video games. Vice, all vices would male sedation. I bring this up because Waller wants to ban Pron. I doubt this will happen anytime soon unless there's some kind of religious revival. People who want to ban Pron think this would force men to get off their ass and become productive. Then when you add most modern games are shit, what do you believe will happen if Pron is made illegal? And let's say we got rid of video games. Do you think men would become violent with like a video response? Because we're not just talking men in general. They're going to do a bunch of different things because there's a bunch of different men. I would say nearly all men are doing it's already happening now. All men would probably find booze or substance abuse or drugs or something. I think some men you already see like what's happening now. You see a lot of men becoming minimalists, retreating into oneself, hermetism, minimalism, where like, oh fuck, it's too difficult. I also think that the value system of popularity, you got to get that white picket fence. And oh my God, if you don't have an SUV, that's dying quickly. So men are retreating. Some women are doing it too, where they're choosing freedom and over that. Eastern philosophy, kind of. I'm not saying that everyone's becoming a Zen master or practicing the art of Tao. They are, however, reprioritizing life of peace and contentment. Um, but yeah, some people, if you're not, how many of you have the benefit of tuning into Turd Flinging Monkey or reading the Way of Monkey book? A lot of men will resort to violence. I would include some men who pursue the peaceful, quiet retreat and they'll also get into violence because they're angry. At the end of the day, see, just because you're doped up on pot or happily drunk, that doesn't mean the agitation and the injustice and the misery has gone away. You just numb yourself to it. You sober up, yeah, you're going to be pissed off. You are going to be pissed off. And so I could see a guy who would be totally chill. I'd be one of those people that I go hiking, right? I enjoy hiking. I also go to anger management. Why do you go to anger management? So I frankly don't assault or murder people. No joke. No, I mean, there are so many bad people who need to die. And I don't mean like people I politically did. I mean vile, evil thieves and bad people. Bad people. That just ends up with me in a cage. And they're there. And you're always reminded of them. And they're there. And sometimes they get in your way. Sometimes they steal from you. And you have every moral right, but there are going to be some people in some nice uniforms with some shiny circular things that go on your hands, and you're going to have a new place in a cage. And so you can't do that. But the anger so I could see it where, okay, you read The Way of Monkey book, which by the way, everyone who happens to be angry, I strongly recommend you read it. You could read Marcus Aurelius Meditations, but you'll be driving out there. There'll be some dipshit boomer on a motorcycle because a Sturgis rally is going on. And they're going to do some dumb fucking shit that puts everybody's lives at risk on that road, including yours. And you have every right, every moral right to ram them off the road, but you're going to jail for attempted murder or at least vehicular homicide. And you just gotta let it go, man. But not everyone's gonna go to anger management. Not everyone's gonna have to know. And yeah, you're gonna have some men commit violence. Absolutely. And going back to our steam vessel example, you got a container of steam. And you said, well, what if we shut these valves off? Well, it's going to go, the pressure's going to go elsewhere. So you're going to have more of everything. So you shut off the Pron valve and the video game valve, which frankly, if society was smart, they wouldn't do that because it goes that way. I mean, there's no real bad consequences to Pron or video games. You could argue there was an opportunity cost with economic growth, but that valve has been welded shut. There's no valve there anymore. Work in production, you have really you've cut that off to the vast majority of people. So you shut off those valves, pressure's got to go somewhere. It's going to go everywhere. Substance abuse, violence, um, another thing, and this is a healthy valve, is some people will abandon. Well, I mean, you're leaving the system. Would be going overseas. I know a lot of women criticize the passport bros. Do you want miserable, pissed off, angry men in your society? Or would you rather have who you have no interest in? Society has no interest in them, right? you 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 don't want them. You've literally said you don't need them. Translation, you don't want them. In action, you have the courting women, dating. Society more or less has not been welcoming and certainly not celebrating of these men. Like, well, we don't need you, and dare to accuse them of patriarchy and institutional and all that other stuff. These men will leave the system and go to a different one. And that's one of the more healthy things to do where, okay, I can't get what I want here. I'm going to leave and go to another tank where society, there are girls or there is economic opportunity or the brain drain, things like that. So that would be another valve. And you see that. But the energy by laws of physics has to go somewhere. The pressure needs to go somewhere. And it's kind of going to go everywhere that is not Pron in video games. I would also say that there is not as much energy or steam as in generations in the past because I think the school system, uh, testosterone going down, you could argue also environmental factors, diet, plastics in the water. Oh my God. Lowering men's testosterone. I don't care how we got there. There's less testosterone. So there's less pressure. But I would also say K through 12, I cannot convey enough how demoralizing, defeating, and exhausting K through 12 is. What is going on with my goddamn computer? Swear to God, it's shit like this, like StreamYard. By the way, I use StreamYard. The login button's gone, so you have to like fuck around and search. It's just God Almighty. It exhausts you. It taxes the ever living shit out of you. And so I don't think a significant percentage of men just don't have the energy to go and start fucking shit up and commit violence. They're just exhausted. They're tired. Starting at 5, you have all the fun and joy and excitement taken out of you in life. My intense hatred of teachers in private schools too comes from this. You just destroy childhoods. And so when they come out at 18, and on top of it, there's nothing really good to look forward to. The women are not attractive. The girls are antagonistic. They don't like you, which is normally the number one thing that would motivate men to do something. Children are certainly off the table because you can't financially afford it. The guys are just they're defeated before they even got into the adult real world. They're just plain exhausted. And so I think a disproportionate or more than in times past, the young men of today, whereas maybe they cause a riot or you'd have the Nika revolts, look it up. Today you have, I mean, look at the soy boys, the military. You have to go to pre-basic training because they're so susceptible to fractures. They you can see it. They're dead in the eyes. There ain't no testosterone. There's no fire. They were defeated and demoralized and had their spirits broken before they even turned into an adult. And I think a significant I remember now, I can't speak fully for the black community, but it's just been my observation. I'm old now, and I I would love to hear a black man's opinion of my own age. What the fuck happened to black kids? Going from when we were kids or teenagers, you have Boys in the Hoods and the Crips and the Bloods and like, "The man, don't go around, they fuck you up." And now I'm looking, I'm like, "What they every young black man looks like Urkel, like, what the fuck is going on?" I'm not saying there's not violence or anything like that, and there ain't gangs, but it ain't 1991 anymore. They're just fucking defeated. And so I don't think it's not even that they're afraid of committing violence, they just don't give a shit, you know? They're done, DUN, done. And they got their video games and their Pron. So yes, they're if you shut off video games and Pron, I'm sure you'd see an increase in violence, but it wouldn't be like tripling. I don't see I mean, everything would go up. But yeah, there's other I mean, I'm trying to think of other avenues for men to use their time is essentially what it is. So I think there'd be more van life, hiking, adventuring, motorcycle riding, traveling, more overseas, leaving the system altogether. There would be some men who just uh, Tesla up, Nikolai Tesla, where they just focus on their thing. I've had clients like that where they channel that extra energy towards becoming good, and then they're 30 years old, and I get an email 5 years later, "Hey, Cappy, I did what you said, and now I got like a quarter million cash, a house paid off, and I make 170,000 a year remote. What do I do now?" I'm like, "Fuck if I know, man. I haven't even gotten to that stage yet." Eh, you you got escape velocity real quick. I don't know. You write a book about it because I haven't treaded that ground. And you see them. There's that segment of men who they stayed away from the booze and the drugs and all that, and then they just focused on work. They had you know, I think you might see a rise in the intellectual class. I think you might see more men. You see kind of a small resurgence of men going into orthodox religions, kind of like Roosh. For those of you who criticize him, fine, but I think he's sincere. I know a couple other guys who Adam Piggott became Catholic. At the end of the day, you gotta ask yourself, "What am I gonna do with my time?" And everything is on the menu. If society doesn't wanna have anything to do with you, they're gonna make it impossible to work, and women aren't gonna, you know, date, court, or like, okay, what are you gonna do with your 78 years on this planet? And the answer is everything else. Everything else. But I would say, given human nature and the fact you have a welfare state, at least here in the United States, the vast majority of men are going to be doing what you've seen them do. They're going to do their pot and their Adderall substance abuse. Fine, you remove their prawn. I think you'd never get rid of it. A black market underground economy would form for prawn, and men would still, or would they go to the strip clubs? They would just jerk off in their imagination and be done. Uh, so I don't even think you get rid of that. Video games, if first I understand your argument, they're pretty much getting rid of video games because it's low quality, it's political horse shit. There's corporate blind greed. I understand you want to be greedy and maximize profits, but they're destroying any reputation and brand value they have by forcing everything to go to an online streaming service or a live action live service where everything is online and you got to pay for DLC and all that instead of just creating a good fucking game. In the current case we have now, people just playing older games and going back and playing I'm playing The Witcher, Wild Hunt. It's great. Uh but you would have to eliminate all the video games. If you eliminated all video games, that's I'd say that's almost bigger than prawn, because that's kind of what you can do as a surrogate purpose and meaning in life for the vast majority of young men. I think they'd leave. They'd leave in greater droves than they left for the lack of women. More men would leave for the lack of video games. They would go somewhere. Now, of course, you could do it with a VPN and there'd be a way, but if you could somehow ban video games in the United States, you would have an exodus of men like you wouldn't believe. And whatever country, which country's gonna take them though is the other way. What, you just gonna sit here and play video games? "Yeah, I don't get my chicken tendies with my EBT card from mom. I could put it under my armpit." Um, that would be and instead of choosing violence, which some might, I think, here, I'll make this prediction, and hopefully we never have to come to this. The amount of self-ending would increase dramatically if you took away any kind of, alternate reality for these men to live in. It would, I don't think they turn to violent. I think they were demoralized from the K through 12. They'd just be, "I am so sick of this shit." And there's nothing to look for. They would, and I'm not, I have my disagreements with the guy. I think he's overly pessimistic, and that's a lot coming from me. I also disagree with the helplessness aspect and everything is kind of cast, as you were born. But Thinking Ape is the perfect channel you'd want to consume a couple of videos of to kind of get a pulse and a read on the mental state of these guys who have had everything taken away from them to live. And I think by and large would predict where those men would go if you took away prawn and video games. I do not see them uniting or forming some kind of army or some kind of community, because why? What's there to fight for? And again, they have no gas in the tank. So, in terms of economics, you wouldn't have an ounce of GDP produced more. These men would just be further I mean, you're taking away everyone needs Vice to live. You would work for Vice. You still gotta make the money to play the video games, to buy the video games. Still gotta have money to get the computer to view the free prawn anyway. Uh, no, the eliminating men's vices would not contribute to, they would not all of a sudden start working harder. And I think, sure, some violence would increase, but for the most part, they'd leave the system entirely as a whole, or they would find some other vice, which would be substance abuse. And then you could theoretically say, well, what if we got rid of the substances? They'll find something else. But you eliminate enough of it and they'll just start ending themselves. I'm pretty sure that's what happened. Like, if you imagine in a world, I mean, this is what the communists did and the North Koreans. Not for dating or romantic or sexual male-female purposes, but just, East Germany is, I don't know, because communists want everyone to be as miserable as them. If you prevented men from leaving, took away their prawn, took away their video games, still sent them through the K through 12 demoralization camps, still had the girl boss, men are evil horse shit mentality. Women weren't thin or attractive or anything like that. How dare you stop objectifying us, male gay? If you took away then, yeah, you'd have a lot of guys probably would start committing violence. And one might argue, well, if they're going to stay, and this is a concern that the federal government and other governments have, and not irrationally so, but the Elliot Rogers kind of thing. You get these hopeless guys, okay, I'm going to choose to end it. Well, some of them are going to conclude, well, if I'm going to end it, everything's on the table. And they might say, oh, remember that person that cut me off? Remember those evil people I ran into? Then maybe. But even then, I think most guys would be like, oh, fuck it, I'm so done. I think go tune into Thinking Ape. I think they're just too damn tired. They don't even have the energy to hate. That's what I think. Although you got, there's always the wackos you got to look out for. So I didn't link to it below, but I would strongly recommend, if you're kind of in this genre or field or philosophy, go get The Way of Monkey book by Turd Flinging Monkey. That is very good, very meditative. It will take all the horseshit that's happening in society and channel it towards productive measures. It'll also calm you and make you less angry, less sad too. And then I also have linked below two books: Enjoy the Decline, Accepting Living with the Death of the United States, and then The Menu. The subtitle is called Life Without the Opposite Sex, but it really ought to, I guess, a more accurate title, looking at it in hindsight, would be Life Without Purpose and Meaning. Because in times past, the opposite sex, male, women, women, male, and children, that's normally what gave you purpose and meaning. That's off the table for half of you. That's not, the forecast might prove wrong, but they're forecasting that, not me, professionals. Half of you are not going to have that. And so you better figure out something else to do in life. And the menu has good and healthy options on it for you to find purpose and meaning and joy and contentment and peace in life. Now, there's several parts to the book, but there's two main parts. One's the male menu, the other's a female menu, because men and women are different. And I'm going to tell my female audience now, my female audience, if you hear, do not read that book. Do not read the women's menu. That would not be, if you're on my team, if you are along these philosophical thoughts, you go read the men's menu. That is good and healthy. The women's menu is written with the expectation of the modern American Western woman in mind. It's not written for a conservative, libertarian, independent type of woman. It's written for the vast majority of the women that exist today. And I'm not saying they're not going to get maximum utility out of that. They will if you're of that philosophy. But if you're searching for other things along this political philosophy, you probably want to choose from the men's menu. Ladies, for those of you who are Democrats, leftists, feminists, that type, that's the menu you want. This is the women's menu. That's meant for you because it's the majority of women. So I wrote it to the majority. In other words, you can't get people to eat broccoli when they want ice cream. And knowing that about generally Western women, this is your menu of ice cream because that's all you're going to eat. And then, that's available. So there you go. And that'll give you something productive so you don't waste your, look, you don't want to go into a cage, okay? You don't want to die. Rule 1, don't die. Rule 2, stay out of a cage. There you go. And so I think that's a much more productive use of that. Let's go to the super. Jesus Christ, 19? What, 18 of them are short jokes from Dre. Wizard Vision Productions, $2. What's next? The chicken tendies? When they take men's chicken tendies away and they can't put them in their armpit anymore, that's when the riots will occur. That's when the riots will occur. Reed Swartz for $5. If you ban video games, I will go from apathy to anger and hate. I could afford only a few hobbies. That's a big one. Yeah, I think the video games is every man needs a purpose, and society has more or less taken that away from men. At least video games gives you a fake. I'm happier playing The Witcher. I'm happier playing Red Dead Redemption than I ever was working in banking. Not because video games are more fun than work, but I never did anything tangible in banking. It was always mooted or stunted or outright revoked. So it's like no matter how hard you try to do, but again, I get it. I understand why y'all collect. Well, I in one way I understand. I got to get a master's degree and interview with Karen and apply for a bunch of fake jobs that don't exist. And I won't be able to make a real living wage until I'm at least 30 or 32. Fuck off, corporate America. I'm going to go play my video games. And imagine, you could have like Civilization or SimCity. Aren't those just like live in life games? They're pretty popular, right? Oh, wow, look, I could buy a car. Mystery of Otaku, $10. Take away Pron in video games and anime, and it will leave men and youth who have nothing to live for since Corona-chan lockdowns to lie flat forever, homeless, riot against society. Yeah, it'll, I could see it. Nothing good will come of it. Nothing good. And it gets back, go read A World Without Men. It is a sad statement and testament, but it's a harsh truth regardless. No matter how much women may hate it, and they don't like it, women do not like the fact that the majority of their value to society is sexual. And the reason for that, and hear me out, women can do more for sex. I know, But when you take women as a group, society becomes men, and vice versa for men versus women. So when women as a group, society means men, and society, from the perspective of a non-female society, values women for their sexuality and beauty. And since that's been taken off the table, that's what happens to the other half of society. You may not like it. You can pound your little fists and scream at the patriarchy gods, but that's what happened. You took away the one thing that motivated the other half of the population, which unto itself is you. I understand you don't want to be defined by other people. I get it, but it's too bad. That's the way of nature. I don't like gravity. I'd like to fly like birds. Who wouldn't like to fly like birds? Well, that's reality. And you will not have a productive class without men will not be productive unless there's women in their lives. It sadly kind of enslaves women to a certain capacity or role in respect to the other half of society, which is kind of unfair. I didn't choose that. But oh well, I didn't create the laws. Nature did. Mazatzal, $5. In our world, the law and justice have nothing to do with each other. Right. I I mean, there is some, but if it's not look, law is real important. You don't have rules that are enforced that are one, rules that are fair, and two, rules that are enforced. People aren't going to play your game. Divorce court, anybody? Hello? Family court? I can't figure out why they're not having kids. What do you mean vasectomies went up 300%? Hey, what's up, a Flamio? $5. Ban Pron in video games and Owlman from Justice League Crisis of Two Earths will win. Owlman. I'm confusing that with what was the 80s comic book they turned into a movie? The Watchmen. The Watchmen. Confusing Owlman with that Owlman. Mazatzal, $5. What people from states like New York, Illinois, California call for far left extremists, Minnesotans call conservatives. Yeah, you guys are going to have Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, as a vice president. Atham, this guy here, $5. Why ban prawn in video games? You want to truly improve society? Ban thottery, sluttery, and fatness instead. That would be far more beneficial to society. You could ban those things. Look, I understand every guy wants to go and bang as many hot women as possible. The fatness out of all those would be the number one thing. But beyond mere banging women, I think a lot of guys want to have kids too. Also, when you have kids, that forces men to go and work hard because they're invested in their own blood. You put a welfare state in there where the man could be scot-free off the hook, then it's over. There cannot be a welfare state. Men have to have access to their children, be able to raise them. And if you don't have, physically attractive women and mutilate their body with a bunch of shit and children, men ain't getting up in the morning and they're not going to fight for you. Oh no! Did you latest video from Subway camera? Oh, bad guy woman voted for assaults woman. Other men who didn't vote for bad guy stand around and do nothing. Where have all the good men gone? You ain't my wife. You ain't got my kids. Fuck off. Fuck right off. And it's illegal for me to help you because you voted the rules. Remember the rules and law. You don't want justice. You wanted popular laws. A Pringles can with veins, $5. The Valve went to innovation. They made video game girls into big back aunties. Now AI prawn engines for games and AI movies. Studios are worried now. Yeah, it's not coincidence that the new video games have taken. Yeah, you remember when girls were hot? I mean, everyone was hot in video games, but the girls were hot too. Now it's what, Star Wars Outlaw? There's also, I will say this. There really does seem to be, and I ain't got no proof, but it really seems to me women just don't want men to have fun. Women get pissed off when men are having fun. Somebody had a quote where, what was it? Nothing angers a liberal white woman more than knowing somewhere some man out there is having a good time. The girls just you could expand that to women in general, I'd argue. There's a piece of them that are pissed off when you are having fun, and they just gotta put an end to those fun time. I don't know why. They're the more miserable sex, I guess. I'm honest. I'm sorry, ladies. They're the more miserable. At least guys go, hey, let's go do something. Let's kick each other in the nuts and go fishing. Let's do this. Like, girl, I don't know. You all want to sit and watch your television shows and commiserate. I don't know. Alex, but I'm never somewhere out there. A girl is having fun. I must put an end to it. I'd go have your fun. Why would I? Good for you. Somewhere out there, a man is having fun. We must end it, sisters. We can't have the tiggle-bitty video games. Alex Patino, a truck driver Latino agent in the field, $5. In South Korea, Pron is banned, but people would get VPNs there. It used to be free VPNs. Now you got to pay to use them VPN. So they banned it, huh? And yeah, right. Okay. that maybe we can ban booze. See how that works. Now you pay to use the VPNs. Yeah, okay. This is gonna be a radical. What do you girls got against about just staying in shape and having sex? What? I don't know. I mean, we got birth control. What's the deal? What's the deal? Did I say something illegal just now? That would be a good philosophical look. Why can't you just go? You're all equal for sex and all. What's wrong? We had this glimmering moment in the 80s and 90s. It almost seemed like that. Now, with Division, $2 firearm, gun range sales would probably go up too. Oh, your hobbies would go up. Yeah, woodworking. I think there'd be an increase in like tradesmen, mechanics, working on classic cars, computer nerds. Yeah, guys would go do. I guess guys would just go do more guy shit. Jeremy Lewis, $5. Calculated if I had your mentorship in my youth, it would have saved me at least 7 years of my. If I had my own mentor, if I could travel back and visit me at like 16, like kid, holy shit, I'd save myself 20 years of my life today. It saved me a lot of headaches and stress. Well, I'm glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. Anthem, $2. What the fuck, man? This is America. Banning. This is not America anymore, Anthem. That died with the fucking boomers. Come on, what? You think we got World War II gun-toting American men and women anymore? Look at it. Look at it. It's a fucking Walmart. That's all this is. Everyone's on welfare. Everyone's a fat, lazy piece of shit. Everyone wants to be up in other people's shit. This isn't America. This is the remnants of America. I mean, we still got like a reasonably okay economy, a foundation. We got infrastructure. But we are so far from what America was. Mazatol, $5. I mean, banning? What are liberal white women going to do? That's all they do is banning. Or no, that's all they do is ban. Sorry. Mazatol, $5. Believe that we would be happier people if we returned to an agrarian and light industrial society. People would be too tired to do stupid things. True. And we'd all be in better shape. I mean, inevitably, we're going to return to that. Alex Patino, $5. If no more Pron or video games, then go to Latin America or Philippines and get hookers and blow. It would be cheaper. Yeah, well, right now it's cheaper to do that. Guarantee you. It was cheaper. It was like a third cheaper in the Philippines. And I was in Manila where things are probably expensive for Philippine standards. Yeah, people are already doing it. Jeremy Rivera, $5. Less men going into relevant work fields instead of telling women to buckle up. The government will rally against whatever men decide to do instead. Yeah, and women have, in general, they have co-opted the government and used the government to take care of themselves and their children and have largely removed men from society. Why aren't men? You removed men from society. You've actually punished them in many ways for even being in society. Don't expect men to be charging the Oma dude, could you imagine if they tried to, uh, what's it not enlist, draft Zoomers? Not because they can't throw a baseball, let alone a grenade. What you think they're gonna go and fight with the ferocity and conviction of, say, Muslims or Islam, I won't even say extremists, but, Islamic fighters? What are we fighting for again? For another Gillette commercial? Oh, we're fighting for the trans gal guy at Bud Light. Oh, yeah, I'm gonna go to war for that. Oh, it is a fascinating time in history to see a society tell one entire gender, one entire sex that they're not needed, and a lot of times they're the cause of everyone's problem. That is it, I just you have rejected one half of your population. Oh, I gotta get a big old bucket of popcorn for this. I gotta see what happens here now. Pringles can with veins, $10. Black guy here, 38. The Bitter Sisterhood told us we were all like Turner. Tina Turner? So we went to be passive and never dated women that look like us. Now they want us to teach Pookie Spawn and save the hood. No, okay, so you're a little younger than me. Who's Turner? All I know is Tina Turner. I don't know. Is that a reference? Um, yeah, I I I delve. I see the occasional meme within the black community. I'm like, "Oh, is that what you guys are dealing with? No, we got our own problems over here. We our enemy is or we share the same enemy, though our aims are different." Oh, X runner $5. The nice thing about having a computer engineering degree is going overseas with a work visa, money and optionality. Awesome. Atham again. Atham, what are you? Look, Atham don't go to school no more, and he got all the time in the world here. Atham, $5. Thinking ape be like, I have insomnia and I'm average at best. Why try? He's smart, but I reject his attitude. Yes, that's the one thing I disagree with him on. Everything is hopeless and futile. I'm like, if you take that attitude, it's guaranteed to be hopeless and futile. Like now I'm putting words in his mouth, and I'm sure it's more nuanced than that. But he literally is, don't try. Why try? It's not going to have any effect. And I've argued it's the same the same poison that we give the black community among other disadvantaged groups. Like nothing is your responsibility, nothing is your fault. It's the white man or males or Hispanics or whatever, the Jews. So just sit here and don't do anything. It's like that's going to guarantee your failure. That is why you fail, is because you don't try at all. And even with disadvantages, your life is going to be here in trying versus down here not trying at all. That attitude would destroy me. That attitude has destroyed entire communities. It has destroyed entire generations of communities have lived in poverty and squalor because the Democrats told them, don't try because it's not your fault. We're your only hope. Mazatol, $2. Bootlegger still active in Winona. Uh, like booze runners? Or is there a restaurant down in Winona called Bootleggers? I mean, booze is legal for now. Man, could you imagine a legit matriarchy? Okay, you got Kamala Harris and you got her female running mate, Tim Waltz. Could you imagine if the Karens took over the country and everything they'd outlaw? Oh, oh, that'd be hilarious. Remains of a woman who picked bear over men. 10,000 Korean won, which is like $5, I think. There are illegal porn sites that are made outside South Korea's servers that are accessible to South Koreans without a VPN. The South Korean government keeps blocking those sites, but it's playing. What? See, why? Well, come on, South Korea. You're supposed to have an IQ of 104, 105. What the hell are you? Really? What? Like maybe hear me out. Maybe South Koreans could do with a little more prawn. Both the men and women. Maybe I'll get a little horny and have more South Koreans. What in God? See, this is why I never want to be a dictator. I never want to be a dictator. I want to be a boss. I don't want to be a dictator. I got to do this shit. I'd be the most libertarian guy president there'd ever be. I'm like, I don't give a shit about you. I'm getting the fuck out of your way. And if you starve, you starve. There's no welfare. But at the same time, I'm not going to try and ban Pron or tell you what to drink. You can do all the drugs you want. Like you start killing people or murdering people or breaking law, then I'll come in. Otherwise, your choice, your problems. Now leave me the F alone. I got to go hiking. Miles, it's all $2. How do the Saudis deal with online prawn? I don't know. That'd be a good question. We got a couple Arabic guys out there. We got some guys from the Middle East. Remains of a bear who picked a woman over men, 10,000 won again. The problem with those sites is that they are legal in the US and Japan, prawns and actual revenge prawns mixed up. Since there are no legal distinctions between them, why not watch those without conscience? Well, I don't know. I think you should watch Prawn Without Conscience, as long as it's not like Kitty or The Revenge, where it's not permitted, like the person being filmed didn't give permission. I don't know how you distinguish. You're right. I wouldn't know. Mazat's all $2. Eric Cartman is my hero. Goddamn hippies. Moy free lifestyle, 20 generous bucks. Corn and video games make men lazy. Unless you have your shit together, you should be focused on leveling up, not sloth. Too many lazy kids out there. Video games are created by elites to keep children docile. I'm Jack. They weren't. I don't think they were clear how it was. I don't know my video game history, but Pong. I honestly think it was just like, hey, we could do a video game. We could make graphics moves on the screen. Combat for the Atari 2600. In other words, I don't believe there was the premeditated, conscious decision like, hey, you know what? With this 8-bit thing, let's enslave a bunch of kids. And I enjoy it. Now, you are right. You do not want to get addicted to it and become so lazy that you don't level up. I would also argue, also in the menu, look, I'm all for your prawn and your video games, but it can't consume your life, right? I start getting guilty after I play like an hour or two of Witcher, and I gotta get out and go do something. There's more to life that is more fun, and you'll feel better about yourself doing than playing video games and prawn. So I would kind of put video games and prawn. They're definitely vices. They're not needed. But if you got your shit together and you go to the gym and you have a job or you work and you survive and you perhaps participate in the community however you may, whether it's religion or Masons or Kiwanis or whatever. And then like, yeah, you don't have a wife, you don't have kids. Well, yeah, you've asked out girl. Even that I'd say is like, well, you ask out a couple girls, get your shot in. If you're rejected on the whole, yeah, why? I'm sorry, lady. I'm really sorry, but if you put forth the effort and you ask girls out and you still get shot down, I can sadly see men completely replacing you with prawn. There's just other shit to be going on. Men do not have time to be spending 10 hours with you to get blue balls and maybe get peen touched. And I know girls hate the fact that men want to have sex, but I'm sorry, that's what it is. But after a while, yeah, no, go. Alex Patino, $5. I was average in some areas, so I would put myself where I was above average since I don't play video games as long as I have my books. Oh, God. Really, Alex? You like Vince? You like reading? Oh, man. Oh. You're one of those people, huh? People are like, I hate reading. But you're an author. I hate writing. I don't like it at all. It's like I'm a stripper. I don't like doing this shit. I just get paid for it. Rain shorts are $5. We need a hiking tax for all those white power walkers. What would happen if you had to apply for a hiking license or some dumb government BS? One could argue that already happens at the national parks. You gotta get I mean, parks that need to be maintained. So I understand you got to pay a fee. It's now more modernly, you got to get a permit to hike because so many people go on the trail. But if you outright said we're we're taxing hikers. I don't know. We hate hikers. You benefit unfairly. I have to. That would be. That might become hockey mask time. But since I like life and not being in a cage or underground, I would probably just leave. I'd be going overseas. I'd be like, okay, that's enough. It's already dictatorial enough. Now you're going to tax hiking and walking. Done. No. There's also this macabre fascination I have where I want to see what happens to the United States. I want to see all the sanctimonious assholes I've had to tolerate this half a century in the United States of my life to see what happens to them because they fucking knew everything. I already see what's happening to them. It's great. Oh, divorce? Oh, you didn't know everything. Oh, poverty? Oh, your taxes went up. If it just helps one person, all right, let's see how it goes. I do enjoy seeing the mostly assholes in my past suffer now. I want to stick around for this. I want to see it. And I go, Wisdom Vision Productions, $5. Pron Hub is banned in Virginia, so they're already trying this. VPN solves the problem, though. We are entering fuck around and find out territory. Why I see, and here's where I would disagree with the Republican Party, because it wasn't the Democrats came up with this, right? Look, you got bigger issues, Republican Party, way bigger issues. But I don't care. Generation Apollo, $5. JD Vance said married people should have more rights and power in democracy than singles. No, that's not the. No. Now, you might argue they should have better tax treatment because they have more kids and you already get a kid tax benefit. But rights and power, I don't know. Not to bore you with Cappy's personal value system, but the individual is supreme. The individual is conscious, the individual is sentient, and the individual not only enjoys pleasure, but it endures pain. You must come up with rules and laws equal to everyone and the voting rights that are equally distributed to the individuals and everyone who has earned it. You need a meritocracy. None of this shit, oh, you're married or you're Hispanic or you're left-handed. No, because it violates the rights of the individual. he can. So don't care about this election. All right, that's it. Link below. Enjoy the decline. Also, the menu, Life Without the Opposite Sex. Not link below is The Way of Monkey book by Turd Flingy Monkey. All these are on Amazon. And that's it. We'll see you guys later. Toodles.